Could you have aphantasia? I've got the signs, so let's go. Welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for being here and watching this video. I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. I'm all about helping you raise your level of understanding, acceptance, and appreciation of the autistic community. So please come and join this amazing community we have built together by subscribing to my YouTube channels, Orion Kelly, that autistic guy, and Orion Kelly podcasts. Let's explore the topic of aphantasia, what it is, its connection to autism, and most importantly, how it affects your daily life. As a starting point, this is not a diagnostic video. I'm not a healthcare practitioner. I'm just an autistic guy sharing my lived experiences as an actually autistic person. It's a discussion starter. If you want to continue that discussion, I recommend you go and see a GP or family doctor. Now, I've been saying aphantasia. Some people may say aphantasia. Either way, you're right. Let's suspend disbelief of your way of saying it and go with my way of saying it for the purpose of this video. What is aphantasia? Well, in basic terms, it's a condition that affects your ability to visualize images in your mind's eye. Aphantasia is a neurological condition that is characterized by an inability to voluntarily visualize mental images. So, people with aphantasia can't see images in their mind, even when they try. You may also have heard this described as image-free thinking. Let's do a quick example that you can actually experience with me right now. I want you to think of a cat. Does an image of a cat come to mind? What color is the cat? What's the cat doing in that image in your mind? Now, for most, an image of a cat appears in their mind's eye, though for others, creating a dim, vague, even incomplete picture takes time and effort, whereas others can picture the cat with exceptional clarity. People with aphantasia can't create a mental image, or at the very least, struggle to create mental images. In other words, can't create mental images of people, places, objects, thoughts, memories, even images of the future. Now, phantasia, so not aphantasia or aphantasia, but phantasia, was the word Aristotle used to describe our sixth sense, or the ability to imagine things not present to your senses. Therefore, aphantasia or aphantasia denotes its absence. Now, aphantasia can definitely present in different ways, but there are some common signs to look out for. Not being able to visualize anything at all, not even simple shapes or colors. Or you can only visualize very faint images. In other words, they're not clear or detailed. And the other common sign is you can actually visualize images, but they're fleeting and quickly disappear. You can't hold them in your mind's eye. So that's aphantasia or aphantasia. Now let's talk about its connection to autism. There is some evidence to suggest that aphantasia is in fact more common in autistic people. A study published in 2019 found that around 38% of autistic people also had aphantasia, compared to just 2.9% of the general population. Now, as always, neurological, the brain, really, the connection is not understood. Well, people like to say it's still not fully understood. That's just an academic's way of saying, However, it is thought, though, that both aphantasia and autism may involve differences in the way our brain processes visual information. That makes sense. Different brain, different processing. Like, hello. Now, I'm going to get to some of the major impacts that it can actually have on your life, aphantasia, and there are many. But first, we're talking about the connection between being an autistic person and aphantasia. You might think, well, are there signs I can look out for? Yeah, there is. Okay, so let's talk about some of the signs that an autistic person may experience aphantasia. Do you have difficulties with visualization? And this is funny, right? You know how like the self-help gurus always say you can manifest the life of your dreams by visualizing it? And you think that sounds pretty cool, but then you try it and you realize yeah, I can't do this. Like, I can't visualize. They say, oh, visualize it like you're there, like you're in it and experiencing, and it's real, and you'll manifest it. Now, this sounds great, but if I can't do it, what does that mean? I'm stuffed? Because I'm already stuffed anyway, so I might as well stay stuffed. This is something I can relate to. Bottom line is, autistic people may find it difficult to visualize images. Like I said, visualizing the things to manifest, visualizing memories, events, daydreaming, these kind of things. If that is a struggle for you as an autistic person, it could be a sign of aphantasia. Another sign that you're autistic and have aphantasia is a difficulty in understanding metaphors. Now, this is common for autistic people, but here we're talking about the specific type of metaphors that rely on you to be able to visualize the image of the metaphor. Obviously, if you can't visualize the image being used to represent something else that is the metaphor, then you'll never grasp that particular metaphor. This sign that you're autistic and also may have aphantasia may ring a lot of alarm bells. It's facial recognition. As an autistic person, do you have difficulties with facial recognition? Do you, like me, struggle to recognize faces? You see someone, there's something inside you that's saying, this face is important to me, but I don't know why. Why is that? Well, if we can't visualize the image of that face, of that person, that name and that face, it makes it very hard to recall, to recognize the face. So in effect, aphantasia is causing you to be unable to even just identify someone, recognize someone, remember someone, which leads to, in my opinion, a lack of eye contact. And there, my friend, another insight into autistic people and eye contact, right? We are processing a person's face and we just can't get there. Many reasons. Okay, well, I'm looking away because I'm processing, but also I'm looking away because I don't want you to see me, so then I'm exposed that I don't know who you are or can't remember you. And I'm also looking away because of the possible awkward interaction and the anxiety of not being able to visualize this person and realize I know this person, that's Jane or John or Jim. Oh, they've got great names. Today, brought to you by the letter J. Autistic people who also struggle with aphantasia will have a difficulty with spatial reasoning. Again, because we actually can't visualize the images or objects in our mind. Now, of course, if we can't visualize those images or objects in our mind, we're going to struggle to do things like understand maps, read maps, navigate our surroundings, and even build things. Man, I am not good at building things. Can you visualize the thing in your mind? Can you look at the diagrams on the instructions, visualize that and put it into practice? I can't. The idea of looking at the diagram and still not being able to visualize it is a sign of aphantasia. Autistic people who also have aphantasia can genuinely struggle with communication. I get it. Autistic people, as a rule, struggle with communication and interaction. But, and crucially, aphantasia can actually impact our ability to identify and convey our emotions and feelings if we can't, in fact, visualize how we're feeling, our emotions, in our mind's eye. That's just plain frustrating, right? That just leads to misunderstandings. It's not a good result. Okay, social interactions, core autistic trait, core autistic challenge. Yep, absolutely. Although, it can also be a sign you're autistic and experience aphantasia. Why, all right? Because you can't visualize the social cues. You can't visualize body language, nonverbal cues. So you're seeing them, right? If you can't visualize them up here to process them and identify them, how are you understanding what's happening in the interaction, right? How are you interacting? This leaves you with a sense of having no idea what people are thinking or saying, and therefore it becomes virtually impossible to respond appropriately in any interaction. How does aphantasia impact your daily life? I'm going to get to that next after this final sign that you're autistic and could have aphantasia. And it's all about learning. A bit like I talked about in spatial reasoning and building things, an autistic person that also experiences aphantasia can really struggle to learn in the particular ways that really rely on visualizing. So these could be textbooks, visual aids, slideshows, diagrams, pictures, really every part of education, right? And I guess a good example of how you might go, oh, okay, that is me, is maybe you, like me, are actually better at learning things hands-on rather than visualizing, in diagrams and textbooks Or maybe you're a person who learns things by simply listening to lectures. In other words, not looking at the slides, the presentation, the PowerPoints, whatever, and simply listening to what's being said. So listening or looking, two very different ways, but you usually put them together when you, right? When you're in a lecture. Taking away the looking, just the listening, or doing something hands-on. I find this is really helpful. You can show me it 70 times, but until I physically do it and basically fail repeatedly and keep doing it, I'll never get it. That's a sign. Autistic and has aphantasia. Aphantasia can have a significant impact on your life. So let's talk about some of the major impacts you may experience with aphantasia. We'll start with daydreaming. People with aphantasia may find it really difficult to daydream. And this is because they can't actually visualize the images and scenarios that you would typically see in your mind. Now, this inability to daydream impacts your ability to relax, unwind, regulate, and therefore increases stress. Aphantasia can also make it really hard to visualize your memories, because even if you try, you can't actually visualize the images or the events of those memories that others would see in their mind. This can make it even harder to simply remember things, to simply feel a connection to your past. I find at times I can struggle to recall anything from my life, childhood, or whenever. You ask me a question about this or that, I honestly don't remember. I honestly can't tell you. This is an experience that I know too well. In other words, not remembering memories doesn't always have to be linked to trauma. It actually can be linked to something else, like aphantasia. People with aphantasia can actually really struggle to plan for the future, to plan really in general. Again, because in planning for things, in planning for the future, your mind would require to see the images or the scenarios of those future events to therefore plan for them. Not being able to visualize those images, those scenarios of those future events can have a big impact. How? Well, it obviously makes it harder to set goals, to plan for things, and ultimately to make decisions. Creative arts, I think, is a really important outlet for autistic people, for neurodivergent people. Well, it's impacted once again by aphantasia. Why? Well, I'd say it'd be pretty difficult to create art if you are unable to visualize the art you want to create. You see what I'm saying here? And this inability to visualize the creative side of your life, of your mind, can impact many facets of being creative, like creativity, coming up with ideas, even executing the plan of creativity or executing plans in general. Understanding abstract concepts and metaphors is a common challenge for autistic people, but did you know that aphantasia also plays a part? So people that experience aphantasia can find it difficult to understand metaphors because they can't actually visualize the images that are being used in the metaphor to represent something else. You see what I'm saying? It's the missing link. Big impact. It means that metaphors are a different language. You just simply don't understand them. Therefore, you can't really receive them and digest them, and you can't use them yourself. Or if you do, you use them out of context. People with aphantasia can really struggle in the education field, can really struggle to learn. Now, obviously this relates to certain types of learning. We know that neurodivergent people can learn very differently, but then again, there is no one size fits all. Okay, so how would aphantasia affect your ability to learn? Well, think about it. So textbooks, again, there's a lot of visualization there. Slides with visual aids, imagery of learning. If it can't be replicated in your mind's eye, how do you digest it? How do you learn it? This flows on to career, employment. If you're a person with aphantasia and you're in a employment sector that requires visualization, and I think there aren't many jobs that don't require some degree or level of visualizing images, events, scenarios in your mind, well, this can make it very hard to not only thrive in your role, but to even maintain employment. Now, this impact is more of a general discussion on how a person with aphantasia would thrive in friendships and relationships. What I mean by that is, it's not exactly an easy condition to explain. I've done my best to try and make it a little bit easier to explain, but It's one of those things you try to tell someone you're in a relationship with, or friends or family, this inability or this difficulty in simply seeing images in your mind. I think that's going to be tricky. And then there's the acceptance side of them actually accepting it. Now, the impact on the relationship, well, there's many factors to how that can impact the relationship. I think ultimately, though, the key impact is a sense of isolation and loneliness, a disconnect. Simply put, aphantasia is a complex condition that is still not fully understood, and clearly it can have a significant impact on people's lives. Hey, what do you want to talk about next? Got any ideas, any topic suggestions for upcoming videos? Hit me up. Let's see them in the comments below. I really do appreciate you watching this video. Until my next video, thank you so much for your support, and we'll talk soon.